This happened in March of this year. My friends and I decided to go to this abandoned campsite located in the eastern Oklahoma countryside. I had been there the year before. The property was supposedly haunted. This is not a paranormal story. I'm just telling you the reason that we wanted to check it out. There were 5 of us all together: Tyler, Jordan, Abigail, Angela, and myself. We decided to enhance the experience by bringing alcohol and weed. We had 2 bottles of Henry and 9 pre-rolled joints. We arrived around 11:30, so it was dark by then. We brought along flashlights and gloves, so we were ready to go exploring. But about 15 minutes in, Angela and Abigail both wanted to go back because they were complaining about it being boring. But the rest of us had put too much into planning this trip, so we had to convince them to keep going. This required opening up one of the bottles of Henry. I personally don't like the taste of alcohol, but I decided that I would be doing some drinking that night. I also fired up a joint. One thing about me, though, is that when I'm drunk and high at the same time, I tend to get very paranoid. It obviously didn't help that we were 2 miles deep into the woods. Yeah, I wasn't making the best choices that night. After a while, the paranoia began to kick in. I started hearing footsteps disturbing the leaves behind us. I was convinced enough to yell out, "Hey, is anyone there?" Again, this probably wasn't the best idea, because it freaked out Abigail and Angela. Tyler even asked me, "Dude, what are you going on about?" "Look, I know I'm kind of fucked up right now, but I'm hearing someone following us." "It's probably just an animal, dumbass. How stoned are you?" We kept going, but I continued to hear what I thought were footsteps behind us. The thought of it being an animal didn't make me feel any better. I've never seen a black bear in the wild, but I was pretty sure they were native to this area of Oklahoma. We got to the campsite soon after. We sat at a wooden table to rest after walking 5 miles in the dark. It was around 2:50 a.m. at this point, and we decided to start partying. Let's stop here for a moment and take stock of the situation. A bunch of young adults smoking and drinking in the dead of night on a deserted campground in the middle of the vast Oklahoma forest. There were several rumors as to why this place had shut down. Some say that one of the camp counselors lost his mind and murdered several children with a fire axe. Of course, there is no evidence that this actually ever happened. My guess is this place shut down because of financial reasons. It was now just a collection of abandoned cabins and a rec hall with a caved-in roof. We were definitely being loud as hell. When I drink, the alcohol runs right through me, so I have to relieve myself multiple times. I told the gang that I had to piss and went to go find a tree. I decided to walk further away from the group until they were out of sight. I wanted to avoid any pranks they would pull on me while I was doing my business. When I was midstream, I heard a twig snap about 15 feet behind me. I didn't think it was one of my friends, since the noise was in the opposite direction they were in. I pulled out my phone, turned on the flashlight, and nearly shat my pants at what I saw. Standing about 15 feet away, I saw 4 hooded figures among the trees. I zipped up my damn pants before my stream was even finished and started running back toward the group. "Guys, we need to leave here now. We aren't alone out here." They must have thought I was pranking them until they saw that I was running. They all got up and started sprinting. I heard more footsteps behind us and all around us. I genuinely thought that I was about to die. We were so deep in the woods that no one would hear us scream if we were slaughtered. None of us were thinking straight because of the recreational influence. Angela fell, and I guess no one else noticed except for me. I quickly turned to help her. Once I got her back on her feet, we couldn't tell where the rest of the group went. The moonlight was barely helping, and I didn't want to turn on my flashlight and give away our position. Angela was a mess at this point, crying and freaking out, so I had to try to calm her down and keep moving, even though I felt like I was having a panic attack myself. We kept going until we saw what looked like an old shed. I devised a plan to use the shed as cover while I called the others on my phone. Once we made our way inside, we stopped hearing the footsteps, so I thought we had lost them. The shed was actually a cabin with 3 rooms and a hallway. Once we got to the entrance, we were bombarded by a putrid smell. It damn near made me throw up all the Henry I had earlier. Angela, however, couldn't hold back and vomited right away. I tried calling Tyler and Jordan, but it just went straight to voicemail. I didn't have Abigail's number, and Angela couldn't help since her phone was dead. The smell was becoming unbearable, and I had a feeling I knew what it was. I left the entrance and made my way further inside. There was nothing of interest in the first 2 rooms, but the third I arrived at was where the stench was coming from. My heart was in my throat as I opened the door. I shined my light inside and was met with the most disturbing thing I think I've ever seen in my life. I know that a lot of you aren't going to believe me, but I'm going to tell you what I saw. At first, I was stunned when I saw a face on the floor staring up at me. It was only when I panned to my light that I realized that the head wasn't connected to anything. Leaning up against the wall were 2 torsos. There is something else that was there that I just can't bring myself to tell you. I like to think that I just imagined it, but I know it was there. I had to stay sharp if we were going to escape. I looked at the maps on my phone and saw that we were still 2 miles away from any roads. Angela was still bawling her eyes out, crying about how she didn't want to die. Honestly, I thought it was likely that we would end up dying that night. We heard the footsteps racing toward the cabin outside. I grabbed Angela and told her, "If you don't want to die, we have to run, and don't look back." I planned on running in the opposite direction of the road, while Angela made for the road. I would hide somewhere until whoever was following us passed us. Then I would eventually come out and head for the road. I took off, yelling to get their attention. I should mention that I'm in pretty good shape, since I used to play sports in school, so I was capable of running long distances. Once I was far enough away, I got down low to the ground behind a tree and covered up with leaves and branches to camouflage myself. I was already wearing dark clothing, so I felt this was my best chance. My biggest fear came true when I could feel something crawling down my leg. I've had arachnophobia since I was little, and I've been bitten by spiders before. If not for the adrenaline, I definitely would have freaked out and given away my hiding spot. After what felt like hours, but was probably more like 2 minutes, I could hear the footsteps running away from where I was. I still wanted to play it safe, and stayed down there for another 15 minutes before I thought it was safe enough to make a break for it. Soon I was back on my feet, heading in the direction the road was in. It was now 2:17 a.m. I tried my mom and dad's cell. Neither of them picked up. So I called the house phone. Yes, we still have those. After 2 rings, my dad picked up, and he sounded pissed. I immediately told him the circumstances and about the bodies I found, and that I was separated from all my friends. While I was on the phone with him, Jordan finally noticed that I had tried to call him. So I hung up with my dad and answered Jordan's call. "Dude, where the hell are you?" "Angela and I got separated from you guys. I told her to run toward the road, while I distracted whoever was chasing us. See if you can find her there. I'm heading that way right now, so I'll be there soon." "Okay, man. Watch your ass." I ended up getting there before the rest of the group. Angela came out from her hiding place. She told me that she thought I was a goner for sure. I sent Jordan our location, and they showed up about 5 minutes later. We were all relieved to see that everyone was okay. Angela and Jordan hugged each other for about 2 minutes straight. "Hey guys, that's lovely and everything, but we really should get out of here." Once we were back in the car, I told them about what I saw in the cabin. They asked me why I hadn't called the cops yet. I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with being chased through the fucking woods." I called up the police and gave them an approximate location of where I found the bodies, but I never heard back from them. I guess whoever was out there must have hidden or destroyed the evidence. And I still have reoccurring nightmares about what I saw in those woods. I grew up in Oklahoma. This happened when I was about 10, and my brother was 12. We were playing out in our front yard one afternoon when our neighbor called us over. He lived one house away, and we hadn't interacted with him before. Maybe just saying hello if we passed by when he happened to be outside. I've always been a really shy kid, so I stayed back while my brother went up and asked what he wanted. He explained that he was planning on going out of town within the next few days, and he wanted us to take care of his pool while he was gone. He said that summers were too hot for kids not to be swimming. My brother agreed, and we were told to come over in 2 days. On top of being shy, I was also very paranoid, and I had this weird feeling about our neighbor. This proposal came out of nowhere. I told my brother, "You can go if you want, but count me out." I guess my mom saw us talking to him and came outside and asked what he wanted. We explained his story. No, you two aren't going over there by yourselves. We don't even know that man." 2 days later, we still see his car in the driveway and lights on inside. Something about him bothered me. I told my parents that he never left for his vacation, so he must have been lying to us for some reason. They just sort of dismissed me and said that he probably just canceled his plans. Over the summer, I kept noticing him mowing the lawn 2 or 3 times a week. He never wore a shirt. He just went up and down his yard for hours. Once again, I would tell my parents how weird I thought he was, but they just kept brushing me off. A few more months went by, and school was back in session by now. I noticed him sitting outside his front porch every day the school bus drove by, and he would just watch us all get off, with this blank, unmoving expression. When someone is staring daggers at you like that, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Eventually, my parents decided to install a pool of our own. We had been asking for one for several years. They had to remove a large portion of our fence to get equipment into our backyard. It was one of those above-ground pools you had to anchor, but the ground here can be very rocky, and it took much longer to dig than expected. With the fence gone, our weird neighbor could now see directly into our backyard. I sometimes saw him watching from one of his windows. By the time the pool was completed, it was warm enough to go swimming. I headed outside in my swimsuit, with my clothes over the top. I immediately saw our neighbor staring at me, and decided to swim with my clothes on instead. Over time, I picked up on something. My neighbor wouldn't watch my brother and his friends, only me. The fence was eventually rebuilt, which I was glad. One day I was happily swimming in our backyard when my dad comes up to me. "Hey son, I need to talk to you for a second." I get out and I sit with him. "Son, I have to say that I'm sorry. Your mom and I get really busy, and sometimes we just forget to listen, and that's not right." "I'm glad you trusted your instincts. It turns out our neighbor was a very bad man." He didn't go into too much detail since I was still young, but on the school bus, some of the kids were talking. Our creepy neighbor had invited another girl from down the street to come swim in his pool. He brought her inside his house and started taking photos of her in her swimsuit, and then let her outside and told her that she needed sunscreen and would apply it for her. You get the idea. The girl's older sister came looking for her, She knew that her sister had gone inside, but he slammed the door in her face, so she ran home to tell her parents. The police were called, and he was arrested. His computer was filled with photos of children from around the area. Pictures of me could have been on it. They also found an alarming amount of CP. What still bothers me to this day is that his wife stayed by his side. Mind you, they had children who were toddlers at the time. He was convicted, but has since been released and is now back with his family. We eventually moved away for a different reason, but I can't imagine ever having to look at that man ever again. This story happened in the summer of 2011. For some background, I live in Midwest Oklahoma. My girlfriend Angela and I were renting a 4-bedroom house at the time. We were home one night chilling on the couch. At some point we both fell asleep, and I began dreaming. We were walking around our neighborhood when we saw a man trying to break into a car. He was hitting the car window with a hammer. The noise was very loud, and he wasn't trying to be discreet. I wanted to intervene, but my girlfriend held me back and then whispered into my ear, "Someone is outside our door. You need to wake up." I suddenly woke up and heard a loud noise, just like the one in my dream. My heart was pounding. I looked out the window that overlooked the front doorstep, and I saw a figure holding what looked like a hammer. I panicked and woke up my girlfriend. When she saw what was going on, she screamed. The intruder turned his attention to the window and managed to break it. Luckily for me, I always had my gun locked and loaded. The intruder was about to make his way inside when I confronted him, aiming the gun directly at his head. I shouted at the man, "You make one more move, and they'll be scraping your brains off my porch." I didn't say those exact words because I was absolutely scared out of my mind, but I did convey that I would end his life if he tried coming inside. The figure backed away with his hands up, then ran off into the darkness. I called the police right after and filed a report. We never heard anything back from them, of course. I couldn't give an accurate description, and the man took his hammer with him. He also didn't cut himself when he smashed the window, so we'll give him credit for being properly dressed for the occasion. But I'm glad I woke up in time. It's amazing how a simple dream can save your life. This story happened to my mom's friend. From here on out, I'm just going to call him Uncle. He has given me permission to share this story. This took place in the winter of 2013 in China, during the Chinese New Year. He was driving from work back to his hometown, which was in another province. It was in the middle of the night. The highway was completely empty since everyone was enjoying their celebrations rather than being out on the road. Uncle was extremely tired from work and had to drive for 10 hours on that cold winter night. He was pretty stressed out, as you can imagine. The drive was rough until he discovered a side mountain route that would save him some time, so he took it, which was a huge mistake. For those who have ever traveled to China, you know how dangerous some of the mountain roads can be, especially in the dark, with the snow falling while you're straddling on the edge of a cliff. You could die if your car slips even a tiny bit. Anyways, he took this shortcut and then noticed something right outside his driver's side back window. There seemed to be a man following his car. He was confused, since he was in a vehicle, and how could this old man possibly keep up with him? Next, he made another big mistake. He stopped, parked his car, got out, and tried to see what the hell was going on. But he saw nothing. He circled back but still couldn't find anything, not even footprints on the ground. He thought he was just seeing things because of how tired he was, so he shook it off and got back in his car. After he began driving again, he looked in his rearview mirror. The old man was now sitting in his back seat, staring back at him through the reflection. He then blacked out. When he regained consciousness, he was on his way out of the mountain, seeing the sun rising in the distance. The old man was gone. Uncle had no clue how he was even alive after losing consciousness. By some miracle, he did not fall off the treacherous mountain roads. When he got home safely, he told his mom about what happened. His mom jokingly asked him what the old man looked like. My uncle then described him. From his facial features to his clothing, his mother looked utterly shocked. She then ran into a room, found an old photograph, and showed it to my uncle. "Was this the man you saw?" Uncle was surprised to see the man he saw in his car in the photograph. His mom began crying and told him it was her father, who had passed away before Uncle was even born. He had never seen him or his photo in the house before, since it was such a sad reminder for her. She thinks that her father was there to protect him from the dangerous mountain roads. Before this, Uncle said he did not believe in ghosts because he was a man of science, a licensed surgeon with years of medical school under his belt. But what he experienced on the mountain that night has forever changed his perception.